Good afternoon, 7th Standard. So, today we're going to start a new lesson, Unit 12, and the name of it itself sounds rather odd, doesn't it? A load of nonsense. So, what is nonsense? Imagine a lesson being called a load of nonsense. So, what is nonsense? Can anybody just guess? It's something that has no meaning or that makes no sense, right? Nonsense. So it has no sense. From the word itself, we know it, isn't it? So here on the first page, there, page 170, just open your textbooks there. List your favorite nonsense poems, songs, or stories, including those containing made up animals. They may be those you read or heard of as a young child, perhaps as nursery rhymes. Okay, that I'm sure you can think of, and you can tell me. You can even put in the comment box just for me. You know where you put the good morning? You can put it there for me. Okay, if you can remember any. Now, who are people or poets who have written, these sort of nonsense poems or these funny poems? Now, the very famous one who's very well known for this kind of verse is Lewis Carroll, the writer of the book Alice in Wonderland. Remember, we learnt about Alice in Wonderland, the little girl who, she's daydreaming all the time, and she meets so many people, and the instance she comes across are very amusing, right? And there was another writer also called Edwin Lear who lived between 1812 and 1888, and he wrote a lot of nonsense poems and nonsense stories too. Okay, now here, now share with your with the class any made up words you know, maybe from songs or advertisements. Yeah, you have. I'm sure you all do watch advertisements on TV, right? So you have like maybe it's words made up for some food or new chocolate or something, right? They say it's fantabulous, right? So that would be fantastic plus fabulous together, right? So you have uh, new words being made up words, right? So here they're giving you examples like you have the word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Now that comes from an English movie in a song, okay? So if you put that in the net, you'll be able to hear the song too, okay? Gubbins, tickety boo, and widget. These are all words which have been made up. Discuss the purpose and appeal of nonsense words. Nonsense words sometimes they're very amusing and they make the poem or the story more interesting, right? And usually, how do we create these nonsense words? It's usually when we play with words and sounds, and so we get words like this, right? And there, see, list all the humorous poems, cartoons, and stories you can think of. Discuss the relationship between humor and nonsense. Now, you may have heard of the poem The Owl and the Pussycat. Remember, we did that last year? Yes? And then The Walrus and the Carpenter. That's a very famous poem, too. And then there's another one, The Ning Nang Nong. Okay, now these are poems. If you're interested, you can read them on the net. Okay, now here, this poem that we're going to do today, okay, it's just a part of another poem, of a nonsense poem called The Hunting of the Snark. Now, the snark itself, there's no animal called the snark, okay, it's just a creature that's been created by this poet here. Okay, so we'll read the text now. Okay, text 12a. There was also a beaver that paced on the deck, that's part of the ship. or would sit making lace in the bow. And had often the bellman said, save them from wreck, though none of the sailors knew how. Save them from a wreck, from total damage and sinking. The sailors didn't know, but they were told that the beaver had helped them. Okay, now we go on to the next page there. There was one who was famed for the number of things he forgot. When he entered the ship, his umbrella, his watch, all his jewels and rings, and clothes he had bought for the trip. So imagine here they're telling you about one of the sailors who was very famous for what? For forgetting everything that he was supposed to be bringing, right? His umbrella, his watch, his jewels, his rings, and the clothes that he was supposed to have for his trip. He had 42 boxes, all carefully packed, with his name painted clearly on each. But since he omitted to mention the fact they were all left behind on the beach, just imagine, would anybody bring 42 boxes when they're traveling? That itself it sounds nonsensical, isn't it? Right? The loss of his clothes hardly mattered because he had 7 coats on when he came. Imagine a person wearing 7 coats. You must have been really sweating, isn't it? With 3 pairs of boots, but the worst of it was he had wholly forgotten his name. Can you imagine anybody forgetting their name? That would be impossible, isn't it? But here in this story, this funny little poem, they're telling you that the one of the sailors there had forgotten his name. He would answer to hi or to any loud cry. So imagine that means he's answering to anything that he's called, any name that he is called. He answers to it, such as fry me or fritter my wig, to what you may call him, or what was his name, but especially Tengamajig. So he is answering to, most of the time he is answering to the name Thingamajig, the sailor. But other than that, he doesn't know his own name and he's answering to, when you call him, he says, ah, yes. When you call him hi, or just a loud cry, or when you say fry me or fritter my wig, what you may call him, or what was his name, all these. So he answered to all these names when he was called like that. So here you see all these amusing, nonsensical things in this poem. Okay, so now we come to the second question there on page 171. Reread the poem and list all the absurdities about the sailor, referred to as one. So, what are the nonsensical things that we've read about the sailor? Can any of you tell me? Can any of you tell me what were the silly things about the sailor that we hear here? Can anybody tell me? So I'm sure as I was going through the poem, I told you, remember? So the first thing that he had 42 boxes, right? And he had all of them numbered. And the best part was he forgot to take them for the trip, right? What else happened? Can anybody tell me what else? Anything crazy about this person? Ah, right. He was wearing 7 coats. He was wearing 3 pairs of boots. And the most hilarious thing, the most funny part of it was he had forgotten his name. Remember, he had forgotten his name and he would answer to so many other names that he was called. He was called many names, remember? He answered to all those names. These are all the ridiculous things and the ridiculous names by which he was called. Remember? So these are the absurdities or the ridiculous things that this sailor was doing. Okay. Thingamajig is a nonsense word for thing, usually written nowadays as thingamajig. What other words can you think of which people use when they can't remember the name of a thing they are trying to refer to? Can you think of any words that you can't remember that are referred to here? Not referred to here, that you've heard at any time. Anybody? Okay. Now, sometimes you just say, "What was that?" and you try to remember what you were talking about. Or you say, "Oh, Duda, that I can't remember that," right? Or "What's it?" WOTSIT, what's it, right? Or gizmo, when you can't remember the name of a particular machine or gadget that you have, you call it a gizmo, right? So these are words that we use when we can't remember a name. Sarnalle, right? And you remember, then you suddenly remember it. Okay. Judging from its name, what kind of creature do you imagine a snark to be? Now, here in the poem, they just say hunting of a snark. So, here they don't mention the snark in the poem, but they're just asking you, okay, what do you think a snark is? Now, can you remember any rhyming word to that, to snark? Of course, yeah, shark, right? So, shark and the word snarl, right? So, maybe they're referring to a person who's always snarling and who is like a shark, right? So, maybe that's what they're referring to there. And so, you have the similarity between the word snarl and shark, right? And it doesn't give you an idea of a very friendly kind of animal that you'd want to hug. Okay. Now, question number 3. What, with a partner, look more closely at the vocabulary in text 12a. Okay. There are words in English that are spelled the same but have two different pronunciations depending on their meaning or tense. These are known as homographs. Now, you would have heard the word homonyms. Now we have homographs. Now, what's a homograph? It's spelled the same, but it is pronounced in a different way. An example in 12a is bow or bow, right? Bow is when you take a bow, when you bend down, right? And bow is, it can be part of the ship, or you can have the bow tied at your neck. Remember when you are wearing usually a white shirt and black pant, formal clothes, people have a bow at the neck, right? Now, so these are known as homographs. An example in text 12a is bow, that is in the first verse, in which the vowel can be pronounced either as O, that is as in slow, or ow. Okay, that's bow. So it can either be bow or boo, bow. List as many other homographs as you can think of. So this I'd like you to do. You try and think of homographs. Like, I'll give you another example. You have red, READ. Now we read it as read, and as its past tense also, read, READ. Okay, so that would be an example of a homograph. Okay, so now we go on to the next page. That's 3b. This is all, they're playing with words there. Okay, so B, the words wreck and holy. Now there we don't pronounce the W, isn't it? So they're asking you to list as many other words as you can which begin with or contain a silent W. Now can you think of words there with the silent W? Wrong, wrestle, right? Those are two examples. Wrestling is when you're fighting, right? WRESTLE, or wrong, 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 right? So those are words that begin with W but where the W is not pronounced. Okay, then the next one, 3C. Look at the number 42 at the beginning of the third verse of the poem extract. What is surprising about the way it is spelled? Which other numbers change their spelling when made into a teen number or multiple of 10? Okay, now how do we write 4? Four? But when we write 40, we do not write Fourty, isn't it? You write Forty, 40. Now, that's what they're saying, that it is different the way it's being spelled. Now, which other numbers change their spelling when made into teen numbers? Now, teens would be 13, 14, those numbers, right? So, there, which numbers usually do change? You have 12, right? You don't say 12 teen, isn't it? So, we have 12, Twelve. And the same thing. We say 13, not 3 teen. 13. Thirteen. Okay. Now there's one more teen word. Okay. Y'all can put it in the comment box for me. Okay. That one word there. Then how about thinking about words that are multiples of 10 that change the way we write them? They're 40. See, we don't write it as 40. Now, can you think of any other multiples of 10 that where the spelling is changed? Like, I'll give you another example there. 20. We don't say 2 teen, isn't it? We say 20. Twenty. 20. Okay. So try and find 2 more there. Okay. And we carry on with this lesson in the next class. So good afternoon once again, 7th standard.